Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, I'm still doing a little digging on the Iraqi Dinar as well as the Vietnam Dong. The thing that's disgusting about the Vietnam Dong is it appears that they are comfortable and content with leaving the rate low. And I'll get into the details about that later. So as I was doing some research about the pros and cons of a low exchange rate for a country, you'd be surprised what I came up with, along with anything new that's popped up in the news, all right? So let's get into this. Before we get started, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. And if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. You can follow me over on other platforms. I do have my own group over on Facebook called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. So head on over here and join us. It's free to do so. In here, I do post updates. If I should get on suspension from YouTube or get removed from YouTube and you want to know what happened to me, I'll let you know right here in this group. I can be found on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, and the cool thing about YouTube, if you come over here and you join and you find my channel, I got videos going back, I believe, a couple years. So if you want to see some older videos that I have on Nasera, Jacera, gold, silver, cryptos, come on over here and join. Look me up and check out my videos. You can also find me on Odyssey, catch me on Rumble. When I say that the links for all these are down below in the description, some of you don't know what I'm talking about. It's real simple. Just go down to the bottom right here of any of my videos. See this? This is the description. Hit show more. And there are all the links to all the platforms I just spoke about. Okay, government source reveals package of measures to address exchange rate difference. So a government source revealed on Tuesday a package of measures to address the difference in the exchange rate, while noting that the Prime Minister al-Sidini directed the activation of a committee to hold serious discussions with the U.S. Treasury Department regarding transfers. The government source told the Iraqi News the government has taken a package of measures to address the difference in the exchange rate, including organizing the import process and ensuring the entry of the largest number of traders and importers to the window of selling foreign currencies by facilitating the procedures for opening the account, deposit operations, and other procedures related to the issuance of the identity of the importer, which will facilitate the requirements of Know Your Customer for the category of traders and importers, indicating that there are outgoing negotiations between the government and the central bank with the Iranian side to regulate trade between the two countries and take the best options in terms of payment of dues and amounts, and discussions are taking place at a good pace. The interesting thing about this is I'm wondering if, and this is a big if, but I'm wondering if the United States is going to allow open trade between Iraq and Iran. Because remember, I told you the biggest problem with the smuggling of money and the black market is because a big chunk of it is due to Iran. Iran wants the US dollars, and they're willing to give you more Iraqi dinars for the US dollars. So I'm wondering if the negotiations between Iraq and the US are just that. The United States allowing Iran to openly trade with at least Iraq. We'll see if that's the case. He added that the Prime Minister al-Sidini directed work on a number of important projects to ensure the poor and middle-class income groups are not affected by the exchange rate differences, as the Ministries of Commerce and Health are working to import important materials and provide them in Iraqi dinars at stable prices, such as the food basket project, the pharmaceutical basket, the construction basket, and the reserve materials basket for the transport sector, and some of them began to work on it for a while. He added that the government is now working on the project, the Equal Deal, to exchange trade and imports with some countries such as China and India, and with their own currencies from the main trading partners of Iraq, such as India, China, and some neighboring countries, noting that the government is currently studying the establishment of a free zone to import materials and then marketing them to the private sector and ensure their delivery to the consumer at a competitive price and Iraqi dinars. The government is also currently studying the re-export project, and there are important discussions in this regards. So the thing about this is we know in 2024, the beginning of 2024, we heard anyways, we'll see if it actually happens, Iraq is no longer going to use the US dollar in the country. So that will lower the demand for US dollars, but that still doesn't curb the demand for US dollars that are being smuggled into other countries. So it will decrease the demand for US dollars and increase the demand for Iraqi dinars. This is really good, you guys, really good. He pointed out that the government had issued a series of measures to develop electronic payment systems and reduce dependence on cash, and a series of other decisions will be issued in the coming days related to the pricing policy and incentives for services provided through electronic payments. He explained that the Prime Minister, al-Sudani, directed the activation of a joint committee between the government, the central bank, and the private sector, and under the supervision of his office, to hold serious discussions with the U.S. Treasury regarding transfers through the foreign currency sale window, and the committee has started its meeting from now. He pointed out that the government is holding continuous discussions with the Central Bank of Iraq on a number of topics, including facilitating procedures related to the import of the dollar by Iraqi banks. This process has already begun through some banks to import dollars, and the process will expand to include other banks. Work is also underway to conclude agreements to supply the currencies of some countries to be provided through windows and banking companies to meet the need of the Iraqi tourists who are going to these countries other than the dollar currency. So if you're being forced to rely on the US dollar, that strengthens the US dollar. Think supply and demand. If the US keeps going around forcing these countries to have a dual currency and to take the US dollars, well, people would rather have the US dollars. They believe those dollars to be stronger. So that makes our currency stronger. But as people start to de-dollarize and get away from using US dollars and start using their currencies, then that just strengthens their currency and weakens the US dollar. So I started wondering about this exchange rate. What kind of impact is it having on trade? A low exchange rate can have significant effects on trades between countries. When a country's currency has a low exchange rate, it means the currency is weaker compared to other currencies. This can impact trade in several ways. These are things that Iraq has to take in consideration. They're mainly an importing country. They don't have a whole lot to export at the moment. So export competitiveness, this is what Vietnam is doing. A low exchange rate can make a country's exports cheaper for foreign buyers. When a country's currency is weak, its goods and services become more affordable for international consumers. This can lead to an increase in demand for the country's exports, as they are relatively cheaper compared to those countries with a stronger currency. As a result, the country's export industries may experience growth and expansion. This is what I've spoken about before. If you have a weak currency, then your labor costs are cheap. So you can produce products and services cheaper than other countries. This is when you usually see a lot of American companies going to other countries, and then they outsource the labor to those countries because it's cheaper for them to pay these people $10 a day versus paying union workers, $30 an hour. I'm oversimplifying things, but you get the point. That's why I liked what Trump did. When he made that agreement with Mexico and Canada, he told Mexico, if our companies are going to go there to produce vehicles, then you have to match our wages here. And the wages have to be competitive. In other words, the workers got to get paid the same amount they would if they were here. This way, then the company has no advantages to moving into other countries. Smart move. Import costs. On the other hand, a low exchange rate can make imports more expensive for domestic consumers. When a country's currency is weak, it requires more of that currency to purchase goods and services denominated in stronger currencies. This can lead to higher costs for imported products, which may result in a decrease in the quantity of imports as consumers opt for a domestically produced alternative and substitute goods from countries with stronger currencies. With Iraq being more of an import country than anything else, this might be an incentive for them to increase the value of the Iraqi dinar. They would have more purchasing power, and that would help them with their cost as far as importing products. Trade balances. The impact of a low exchange rate on trade balances can be complex. In the short term, a weaker currency may lead to an improvement in the trade balance as exports increase and imports decrease due to the relative price changes. However, over the long term, if the low exchange rate persists, it could lead to inflationary pressures and increased costs for imported inputs, which may erode the initial competitive advantage gained from the weaker currency. So it looks like Iraq has to find an exchange rate that's not too high and not too low. Obviously, the exchange rate right now is ridiculously low, and they would have to produce mass amounts of Iraqi dinar. Why do that when you could just increase the exchange rate? But I like to see it get up as close as possible to a dollar for dollar. That would be right in the middle somewhere for them. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but it just makes sense. Because then you would still have a cheaper currency and your labor costs would still be affordable without being too expensive. This will still attract foreign investors to come into Iraq, even if it was a one-for-one. Inflation, a low exchange rate can also contribute to inflationary pressures within the domestic economy. As imports become more expensive due to the weakened currency, this can lead to a higher price for imported goods and potentially trigger inflationary trends. Now, Iraq has done very good about maintaining their inflation, so that won't be too much of an issue, but maybe they want to think about lowering the inflationary rate slightly. If that's the case, I'd like to see an increase in Iraqi dinar. I'm sure you guys would too. Investment flows. A low exchange rate may also influence investment flows. Foreign investors may find it more attractive to invest in a country with a weak currency, as their investments will effectively buy more assets in that country. Conversely, domestic investors may seek opportunities abroad where their currency has greater purchasing power. See, it's a tug of war for you to find that sweet spot when it comes to currency exchanges. Right now, I believe the Iraqi dinar is way too low. It's too cheap. Iraq is starting to get back on track. If they're going to start doing trade with other countries, they're going to need a stronger Iraqi dinar. Anyways, that's it. You guys leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. I'll catch you later. I'm out.